Ready?
He kept the Mondinchendo in a pretty cabinet.
All right. You ready?
Nope.
Oh. It's just, I mean, honestly, I don't know how you don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, and I have like no nose spray. I'm completely unprepared for this, I'm going to tell you.
Is that what do you normally carry nose spray?
All the time.
With these?
No, I carry nose spray all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. So now this is my congestion is not due to like any kind of environmental. Now I'm like dealing with, when you don't use it for a while, your nose clamps up like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Like over time. It's an overtime process.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, it gets worse over time. Like if you don't use it.
Oh well, eventually, like your body equalizes and your nose gets back to operating how it's supposed to operate.
Oh, your body accommodates your lack of care.
Yes,
that you give to it.
Yes.
All right, you ready?
Yeah. Oh, we weren't recording
in
that
the morning.
Jim Worthy stuff there
with Doug and John. I don't have Tim's thing. I got a new computer set up, so I don't have Tim's thing with me here.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it better one day at a time. Every day, trying to make a little improvement.
How's that working for you?
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. It's a little expensive.
Yeah,
it's expensive to be better.
That explains a lot, doesn't it?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was going to cost so much. Because sometimes it costs me a lot financially. Sometimes it costs me a lot emotionally. I don't like either of those.
Well,
I mean, if
you want to talk about the latter, we can. I'm not interested in the former.
Dude, you know what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to start saying things, and then when I watch people's reactions, if I don't get the reaction they want, then I'll say, I mean, I didn't, or I wouldn't, or I couldn't. Man, that's opened a whole new thing.
Yeah.
I mean, depends on what the definition of is with Susan McDougal to when I said don't know why it would be, I meant don't know why it wouldn't be. And then Karen McDougal, I mean, put that together. Clinton had a Susan McDougal around his affair.
Yeah.
Trump's got a Karen McDougal around his affair.
The circus just continues
It's a bad time to be a McDougal. They're the people we should worry most about.
So, Doug, I feel we owe the people, the populace,
yes, we do.
the thriving fan base, some sort of apology or explanation for our absence. Because I know that people are probably like, well, obviously it's John's fault that we haven't had these episodes.
Yeah. Well, and they'd be right about that.
It's
John's
fault. They would not be.
They would not.
You were the one who you had to jet off somewhere.
I recall the way I remember it.
All right.
That in the memory of mine that makes it your doing that a week ago, or last Thursday, 3 days ago.
Yeah.
We were going to do it in the morning.
Yeah, we were.
Did I cause a kerfluffle before that, or did I cause one after 48 hours ago?
First of all, you were aware of what I had to accomplish between 6:30 and 7 o'clock. Okay. I put it forth ahead of that. This is why Thursday is going to be weird, because I got to take my mom to the doctor, the nose cancer doctor.
Now, is it pre-cancer or was it nose cancer?
Well, this is
nose pre-cancer.
This is cancer.
Because I'm a pre-cancer survivor, and I don't want to step into her territory if she's a full cancer survivor.
Yeah, I don't think I have, transportable cancer cells on me right now.
You don't?
I don't think so. I don't think it works that way.
Well, I don't know how. Does anybody really know how it works?
Anyway, so that took longer, than I thought. I mean, I was just going to slow down the car about 5 miles an hour and have her tuck and roll out of there into the plastic surgeon's office, but it didn't work out that way.
Well, you had to sit there with her for a lot longer than you thought?
Well, you just, everything is slower with old people.
Oh, she has an old... Oh. Well, good for you, caring for your mother.
Well, let's not even get into that.
Really?
Yeah. I'm horrible.
You're a bad son?
So I go drop her off. So she had this like biopsy done on the tip of her nose. Okay, she had like a little sore, like just a little sore right there on the tip, And I'm like, put
some Neosporin on it.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And so then 4 months later, she goes to the doctor.
4 months later.
Yes.
You put your own mother off. You dissuaded your own elderly mother from having a sore nose spot looked at.
I'm not admitting to anything because there could be future legislation or something involved. So right, so and then they do like a biopsy and they take like a pretty big divot out of her nose, and they test it and it comes back that she's got cancer, so she's got to go have the rest of it oh,
that's terrible,
trimmed away or whatever. So I'm like, okay, it's just going to be a little bit bigger of a divot. But apparently, they took so much skin
stomach is just
off the tip of the nose that they took a strip of skin from her forehead.
No, they didn't.
Pulled it out, turned it around, and flapped it over the tip of her nose.
John, there are things you don't... So now she can't see because she's got a flap down over her eyes?
Well, they just did a strip, Doug. They didn't
Did they...
They didn't debone her scalp and
just the width of her nose.
Yeah,
in
the
middle of her forehead.
Yeah, to wherever the tip of the scar and the end of it was.
So did they leave it attached to the forehead so that it's still alive?
It's under mountains of bandages right now. I don't know.
So what I'm imagining is that they took a strip, left it attached, folded it over, and touched it to the nose, so that skin would still be fed from the being attached and would feed and start to heal the nose.
Right.
My nose is not running.
Me, I can't. I can't even get air through my nose right now.
Yeah, it's a real nose thing with the musics.
It is. It is. We're the Irish.
Well, how is she feeling? How's your mom
she
feeling
feels
now?
good. She feels good, and she's in great spirits. She's not. The first day was kind of rough, and believe me, it was painful. Just in your heart to see her like that. But she's doing fine. The forehead bandage came off, and so that actually looks pretty good. It just it looks normal.
Okay.
So we'll hope that the nose turns out well. And there's after pictures of this kind of procedure, and they seem to have good results. So we'll see. So anyway, that's why I couldn't make it to the thing, and then I was on my way, and like, oh no, I got to go do something at 8:00. And I think you were just being pissy with me, to be honest with you. It's like, I'm going to show you. You're not here at 7. I'm out at 8.
No, I did have to do something. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But I am glad.
On the level of mom's nose surgery cancer?
No, but on a level of I couldn't do it at 7. Or I couldn't do it at 8. I don't quite recall what it was. What day was that? Thursday? Yeah. I've had so much going on. I've never felt so busy in my life.
Yeah.
I had something, but I do like the idea that you thought I was just being pissy. That I'm in the category of like, oh, I think he's just doing that to me.
Yeah, but
I just want you to hold that I might be that guy. I wasn't on Thursday. I haven't spent that card yet. But I like the idea that I've got that one in the chamber.
So is that
I can use at some point.
So is that just like me, like just knowing the real you, that you're capable of that, and that's how it is? Or maybe I just, I'm so sensitive that's how I project onto other people.
It's probably in one of my self-help tips for you, but yes, I think it's projection. I think you treated your mother so badly, you were then assuming you were seeing the world as you are, not as it is, and you were carrying that weight with you.
Wow. Well, that's you. You make it sound so noble. I don't feel quite as guilty as stiffing you on.
And I was responsible for the week before because I was off at a wilderness camp.
Yeah, right.
The Wild Goose Festival. Mm-hmm. And there's no internet there, and I had to work the whole time. So that was my fault last week. But we're back.
We're back.
And it's even though it's 2:07 p.m., morning is a state of mind. So good morning, John.
Good morning. It's it's 11 o'clock Pacific time.
Yeah, Pacific time. That's true. No, it's even noon there.
Oh shit.
We have to go like all the way to Hawaii.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the Obamas. It's morning for the Obamas if they're back home. If they're living back at home. If what was I going to say about it being a state of mind? For some people, they wake up on Saturdays, more like 10 or 11 in the morning. So to them, they might just be rolling out of bed. But I will say, if there's anybody watching on the Facebook live feed, either on the Doug and John in the Morning Facebook page, which if people haven't liked that, they really should.
They really should.
That's where all the giveaways are. That's where the interactions. That's where all the fun happens.
Yeah, we pay it forward there.
Or on either of our Facebook profiles. If they're watching that now and they're in Minneapolis, St. Paul, greater Twin Cities area, go outside for the love of it all.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's the perfect day.
It is.
82, low humidity, breezy. I mean, just because we're trapped in a basement.
I parked the car at the bottom of the hill and I walked up the driveway.
Yeah, how you feeling?
Didn't break a sweat once. That's the kind of day it is.
Somebody's getting in shape.
No, it's just only 20%
it's just that comfortable
humidity.
out. Is that comfortable outside? Well, John, so much going on. I don't remember when we last talked, so I don't remember where the country has devolved since the last time we talked.
The past 2 weeks are just kind of bled into one.
Holy moly. It's unbelievable. I mean, I've been doing my AM 950 drive time show, which, by the way, I need a name for.
Yeah.
We're trying to come up with the branding, so maybe you could help me with that. You're good with that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're a good branding guy.
Yeah.
I need a name.
Name Yoga Sanctuary.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
boy, Shelley and I argue about that too.
Still?
Yeah. Who named it?
I did.
Yeah. Oh, I
brought it up.
I don't even bring that up. I don't even suggest that there's a third party, because I remember I called it Sanctuary Yoga, and we were at Caribou after eating at Punch Pizza. The days before, I think we went on that juice diet.
Yeah.
That then led to running and to my hip replacement. I mean, so much came out of that day at that Caribou. But I said something about
I've gained and lost the same 30 pounds a dozen times.
Yeah, you've been playing ping pong with it. I think I called it Sanctuary Yoga, and then you said, no, I think Yoga Sanctuary. I was like, oh yeah, totally. So then I told Shelley, I think, because then I suggested that to her. And that's how I remember the story.
When is she coming home?
I hope she's not listening to
I'm
this.
just going to say, can I get out of here
she
before
she will just
she
kill
comes?
us.
But speaking of like the relationships, it's like when I came in here, because I thought you were being pissy with me the last time, and this was we kind of threw this,
like, hey, can we do it right now?
Right.
Yeah.
I had to look at your face. I find I do that with my partner, like where are they at right now?
Really?
And their first.
How was it? How was my face? What did I give you?
Icy? No, it was neutral.
Neutral?
Yeah, neutral. You could have still been pissed off, and I wouldn't have been able to pick up on it.
It wasn't clear that I was never pissed off.
Exactly. So so I just played it cool. I'm not going to be super animated. I'm not going to just see where his mood is.
See where this is. You don't know if you're an I don't know why it would be or I don't know why it wouldn't be moment. You were right in between.
That's right. That's right. So you can use that at home with your partners.
Yeah. What's that?
Give them that look in the face when you first get in. If you've been up to shenanigans, and it'll tell you where you're at, in or out of the doghouse.
Huh. Well, you were not in the doghouse with me. I was just busy cleaning up. I actually thought, since we're doing some relational work here.
Sorry. This is
because I was redoing a setup here with a whole lot of things and moving a monitor around, a new computer, and a new cords, and a different placement for the iPad, and all the you're inside the matrix here.
It is
of computers and screens and cameras and microphones and just unbelievable level of nonsense.
An incredible fire trap.
It's I mean the trickle energy that's being used down in this basement to just keep all this stuff plugged in.
I can feel my brain tumor being fed right now by just all the
I thought you were going to come in and I was hustling around to try to clean it up because I know you don't like to come into a place where you have to fight for your place to sit. So I was reading your face. Okay. Did I get this cleaned up enough or not? I'm glad we're having this talk.
Wow.
I'm glad we're clearing this up.
I really feel unburdened right now.
Yeah, I do too.
Hey.
I love you, John. I love you, buddy.
Boy, that's
I just said I love you, and then you didn't say anything.
I know.
I'm looking at your face. I'm looking at your face.
Is there love for me somewhere deep inside those eyes?
Did he see me? Did he hear me? Am I heard? Am I hearable? Well.
Hey, thank you, everybody. That was
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for.
And just for the record, again, for those who are viewing this shit,
Good Lord, man.
my head looks twice as big as yours. It's like an Eicher painting because come on. See, your head is all right. Maybe my head is
smaller.
A little bit bigger than yours.
My head is way smaller.
Wow.
Yeah, your head is bigger, and the way the camera sits.
It adds another
Studios.
quarter of.
Yeah, I think it adds a very small amount, but sometimes when it's just so much bigger.
I'm sorry. I'm coming into this podcast so fragile right now. Some of you guys out there are like, "Come on, buck up, dude."
You're like the George Washington head on Mount Rushmore, the big one, big one out front.
How sweet of you to think of that. That is really, really sweet.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Wow.
You're George Washington. Hey, you know who's not a George Washington? Donald Trump. That's who.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
break that down for me.
Break it down. I mean, this guy. The number of theories, because I have this daily show now on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, drive time 4 to 5. I'm having to talk about Donald Trump out loud into microphones, 5 days a week. I don't have to. I choose to.
Sounds exhausting
because it's political and newsy. And I have run a different theory on what's going on with this person and this president every day, and they all seem reasonable. And they're just series of horrible options. Like one's not better than the other. They're all totally and completely.
Give me a couple of the most sound conspiracy theories behind this guy.
I'll start with the least sound, and the one that I just it has helped me immensely to have empathy for other conspiracy theorists, which I don't typically. I mean, I like them as people.
Mm-hmm.
Two of them, and you pick. If you're one of my friends, it's a conspiracy theorist. You pick if you're one of the two, but it's two.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, that Donald Trump was turned into a Russian asset in 1987. That argument, have you heard that one?
Oh yeah.
That's the one that so creeps me out. But I don't think it's true. But I wonder.
Yeah.
I just can't shake it.
Well, I think that is just the sensible result of the Helsinki meeting is that why would anybody behave in that way? And I mean, not just being a poor performance or anything like that, but even looking at past presidents and how these things were conducted, this was just out of the pale and in alignment with lots of those kind of theories that, like this is how a compromised person sounds,
Right.
And it just kind of fulfilled all of those wonders, I think. Well, I mean, didn't fulfill it, but it fed it.
Fed it. It's unbelievable. The next one I think is not probably more likely is that Donald Trump actually believes in a particular world order that wants to get away from international alliances and into each nation negotiating its own way, with strength being the greatest calling card, not togetherness, that individual country strength, and that he buys the entire notion. This is John Bolton and a whole bunch of people. There's a set of neocons, neoconservatives who hold to this, what's often referred to as blood and soil national identity, that every nation has its own true ethnic group in its nation, and what we should do is return to those. So lock down your borders, keep out immigrants, let your peoples rise up and see if you can triumph over the other peoples. This is sort of the rise of the nation state, and all this new world order business that George Bush Sr. was heavy into, and all of that he's so opposed to that's what's really driving his commitment to tear down NATO, to tear down the G8, and to encourage places like Russia and North Korea to join, and China to join into a big monolithic battle between individual states that are duking it out like some sort of rock'em sock'em robots from our childhood.
And my comment on that would be that, like, regardless of what his true motivations are, like if he is smart enough to hold that as a philosophy, and if there's something else driving him, that seems to be the result. You know, that he may be doing something else, but this is what is happening out of it. I mean, I think there might be some kind of like, this I want to be the biggest winner, business driven, thing that is behind this as well with him. I just can't picture him as being smart enough to have, listened to a 15-minute conversation to explain that to him.
Unless theory number one is right, and that is that he's been courted along this route since the 1980s. Because in 1987 he was pushing against Reagan. He put a big article in the New York Times against Reagan's approach to taxes and to globalization. So he's been for decades, and people wondered way back then, why is a real estate like a playboy real estate cat out there running this kind of long-term work over all these decades since 1987? Why did he come on the scene doing those things? And
so forgive me for like taking like pulling the old man card here,
please.
So it seems like in my memory, like this, the second opinion that or theory that you gave is really a return, to some older time in our country where there weren't as many alliances.
Yeah, pre-World War II and all that.
Yeah, because a lot of these countries they had, they did not have strong central governments or strong, armies. They were, very internal. There was no internet, so there wasn't, great communication. And they weren't like a threat.
Yeah, and travel was quite limited. I mean,
right.
It was possible, but it was long and slow. And
so in that time, that left just the the big major players of the United States, Great Britain and Europe and the Soviet
and Germany,
the Soviet Union. And so in my lifetime, there's been a different path that has been kind of taken. And sure, there's been some like some nationalism and a tough man dialogue that you come from Reagan in that time, but also in that period you had the fall of the Soviet Union and the rise of the Russia being coming along. Yeah. So my point being is that it seemed like we were on a path where there would be more agreement, more communication. There's countries that are being added, to the UN. I think it is, or not maybe not the UN, but the
G8 or NATO.
Yes, NATO.
And the NATO alliance is put together as an opposition to Russia. It's specifically designed to be in opposition to Russia's aggressive behavior,
which was a real threat. I mean, even after post World War II, up into the Vietnam War, that was really what all of that was about.
Yeah.
And our support of Korea was in in resistance to this red commie threat. So it seemed like we'd kind of gone away as countries develop because there's like certain check marks that you have to be as a country to be into NATO, you know. And so as those countries have developed and become part of the greater conversation, now there seems to be just a real turnaway and resistance to that if that second theory really is a philosophical motivation for what's going on.
Yeah, and that's what's scary is because that's what Putin has wanted since his ascendancy into government out of the KGB. His philosophy has been to get rid of those alliances that have become become international, that are in opposition to Russia. And this is why it's really complicated if people don't if you don't know the ins and outs of all this. But when Donald Trump uses the phrase America first, that was actually a phrase used by nationalists in the United States in the 1930s, most popularly championed by Charles Lindbergh of flight fame.
Yeah.
But Charles Lindbergh was one of these guys who said, one of the reasons we should stay out of the military conflict that became World War II was America first, every nation should stay to itself, and nations should be only battling with each other. And we should not interfere in Germany's interior issues. Stay out of it. It's sort of that. And there's been a stream of this in republicanism to stay out and to have a non-interventionist. And this is also Rand Paul and his pop and all those cats, all these non-interventionist guys. But Lindbergh's thing was also because he was anti-Semitic. So he wanted us to stay out of it, let Germany deal with the Jews as they want to deal with the Jews. That's why when the white supremacists that exist now, the white nationalists, heard Donald Trump say America first, they knew that was code for we should have stayed out of World War II. So what was actually going on in that language, whether it was his intentionally or it was just Steve Bannon and some of the other non-interventionists that were pitching this, what they were communicating was, we need to get back to pre-World War II. So when people are like, when was America great again? When it cared for its own interests and stayed out of the interests of other nations. That's what the white nationalists heard. Now, people will say that's not what Donald Trump was intending to say. He was just trying to say, like, back to, I don't know, whenever people were happy around here. But that language, and to use that kind of language in this anti-world order business, really triggers all that. So that's what connects Brexit, the white nationalists, Russia, and the Trump administration into this weird little cabal that people are like, what are they talking about all the time? Why does Trump keep saying NATO doesn't pay its bills and the G7 needs to now become the G8 and how come they wanted to remove annexation from Crimea from the Republican platform? Like just the nerdiest, weird, what are they doing? But it all fits into that big world order redesign. And here's what's crazy about it. All the critique against Obama from Trump and those guys was that he was part of some grand world order takeover, and Trump might actually be philosophically trying to lead us back into have the United States diminish its commitment to these international world order allegiances.
But
unbelievable.
Wouldn't it like if so? We're just giving steroids then to our number one adversary.
But to him, they're not the number one adversary. The reason he keeps saying it would be good for us to have a good relationship with Russia only comes out of a philosophy that a strong Russia is good. The United States thinks a Russia that engages with the rest of the international community in healthy ways is what we want. Whether they're strong or not is not the point. Trump wants a strong North Korea and a strong Russia for a whole set of reasons that get into nations staying out of other nations' business. It's really something. So he doesn't see him as an adversary. That's the fundamental difference. Is that even Mitt Romney, remember back in 2012, was like, Russia's our number one geopolitical adversary, and Obama was like, dude, welcome to the 21st century. No, they're not. Actually they are. Actually they are.
Hey, and I've got no problem trash talking Obama too, but but wouldn't that for Republicans who seem to be really one of their ethos is law and order. And so, you see this in a lot of conservative people, and we talked a little bit about a couple podcasts ago regarding how legal immigrants, how they feel towards the illegal immigrants, because, hey, we did it the right way, and they're doing it the wrong way. So kind of like in fundamental Christianity, it's like, it's really hard. Like once you're a bad guy, unless you have a complete, salvation experience and great, testimony, you're a bad guy. And, until
you're just a bad guy.
You're just, and
until never.
Right. And that exists, I think, as how a lot of people look towards people who are in prisons and how prisoners should be treated.
Right.
Well, they're just bad people and they need to be treated poorly. And there's a lot of bad people in prison.
Guards, wardens.
Well, so why wouldn't you then hold, a a nation to the same kind of standard, or a leader who carries on, annexing Crimea, shooting down jumbo jets. Okay, we've done that too. Poisoning people and and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Right. If you're law and
creating
order,
a refuge for Snowden.
Yeah. If you're law and order, why aren't you engaged in the international law? If you're the law and order president. All right. Theory number 3.
Oh,
whole bundle of psychological theories. He's just a plain old narcissist, and anyone who likes him and doesn't like Obama is the people he wants to like him because he's in such personal opposition to Obama. There's that one. I like that one a lot. This is my newest psychological theory. He realizes he's incompetent to be the president, so what he's going to do is to demean the value of the presidency.
To his level of competence.
To his level of competence, right. It's that we've talked about that before. You never hire above yourself.
Yeah.
You never hire somebody who's better than you because it makes you feel bad about your own performance. That's something people fall into. And if you don't think you're capable of doing your job, let people believe that your job is stupid and dumb and everyone who's ever done it did it wrong. And so what he's doing is, the rest of us who are like, he's demeaning the presidency. There's a whole group of people who are into this like world order jazz, who don't mind that we don't have an internationally respected world leader. They don't want an internationally respected world leader.
Yeah.
So Trump is demeaning the presidency intentionally, and that he's actually trolling all of his critics. So when he's accused of sexual payoffs, who does he hire as his communication person? This guy, Bill White, who worked for Fox News and was the primary cover-up guy for all the cats over there at Fox News. That's who he brings into the White House. He's trolling. And when people are like, you are in cahoots with Putin, you literally said, if you had to choose between your own intelligence agencies and Putin, you said, I don't know why it would be that. And then you try to walk it back. Then that same day, you invited Putin to come to the United States. When everybody's saying to you, you're too connected to Putin, your answer is to bring him here. You're trolling your very critics by tripling down on the very thing they're critiquing you for. And that all comes out of this: demean the presidency and use it only for your own personal platform.
Now, like going back to the Helsinki meeting, now, look, there have been presidents who have met one-on-one with other world leaders in the past.
Yeah.
It's happened a handful of times.
Yeah.
It's not like super rare, but it's unique when it happens. But in every one of those instances, the meeting was basically the result of a culmination of interaction between the parties. And like, okay, we've come up with the plan. This is how willing, they're willing to bend and how we are. And then that meeting is a culmination of that, of hundreds of people working hundreds of man hours, to create this structure for the summit. There's nothing for this at all.
He's saying this is the first thing we'll do. Right. I'll strike up a deal, come home and tell people about it, and they'll whip it out.
Yeah, I mean, there's, all of these, I mean, there's not that there's many diplomats and, political people who would be involved in communicating, with the people, the Russian bureaucracy, but just none of that has happened. Nobody knows.
Psychological issue number 3, he's just not very bright. He literally is lost and doesn't know what to do, and he's following his gut, and he's just wrong and dumb.
So how do you retort?
He's dumb in this way, right? Like there's a whole lot of jobs that I shouldn't have. I got this whole shtick where I'm trying to communicate that I believe Donald Trump to be the light of the world. He's the salt of the earth. He's the beloved one of God. He carries the fullness of all of humanity and should be honored and cherished just as every other human being is. He's also totally incapable of being the president of the United States, and he should stop doing that job. Those two things can be held at the same time and need to be held at the same time. So he should move on and figure out how to be the fullness of Donald Trump in some good way, because he is not figuring out how to do that right now. He's causing damage, and he needs to just resign because he's incapable. He does not know enough to understand how to be the president of the United States. He's not just temperamentally incapable. He's psychologically, emotionally, and knowledge wise, incapable of functioning as the president of the United States. He's become incapacitated to the point that they should pull that 25th Amendment business.
So how do you explain, it's like, hey, you can whine all I want. Like, I'm in that funny looking office,
Yeah.
You don't get there for being stupid.
Well,
I'm a multimillionaire with properties all over the world. You don't get all of that from being stupid.
Well, you can be. What I'm saying is, you can be stupid and you can be smart in some ways, and really unsmart in other ways.
Yeah.
You can be a genius in some areas of life, totally brilliant, and totally incapable in other areas of life that matter. Donald Trump was brilliant in managing his brand and getting himself through the Republican primaries and getting himself into the national populist mind enough to squeak out an election. He's that. People have tended to assume if you have that skill set, then that means you have the capacity to be the person in the job. He does not. He just clearly does not. And everyone around him is now saying this.
Now he's
not bright he's not smart as a president needs to be smart. He might be smart in other ways. I don't know. I don't think he's a total imbecile, but I think for the role of being the president, he's totally and completely incapable of doing that job. And he shows it every day. I mean, he just shows it every single day. Like, quite literally, if you're standing next to Putin and someone asks you the question he was asked, and you mistakenly confuse your conjunction, should I have said, don't know why it wouldn't be, or I got tied up on the double negative. Really? Because if the whole rest of the time you'd been pounding on them about their interference, if you had brought it up, if you had said, look, President Putin and I, we've got a lot to work out. There's a lot of things we have to figure out. A lot of things we're partnering on, but this election interference, this is something that's going to show up in every conversation we have and until we get to the bottom of it, and I'm never going to forget that it happened while we're negotiating all the other ways we have to work together, whether it's in Syria or it's in the space station or it's in global issues, but it will always be part. And then he says, well, I don't know why it would be. People have said, oh, he totally meant wouldn't be. I mean, he just got himself confused. But everything he said was the opposite of that. So that's why his totally clear answer was, I don't know why it would be. Why would they want me to be the president?
Not to mention how lame, if the statement was supposed to be, I don't know how they wouldn't be, like how lame of a retort that is to that question.
Yes. Do you think Russia interfered in our election? Absolutely. I'm hearing this from Putin. I'm hearing this from Dan Coates and the security people. They're all telling me they did it. He's telling me they didn't. I believe they did. That's what you wouldn't phrase it in a double negative. I don't know why it wouldn't be. That's about as weak of a critique. And the second question that he refuses to answer ever is, there's always two questions. Do you think Russia interfered in the election? And Hillary brought this up in the debate in October before the election. Do you believe Russia interfered? And do you believe they interfered in order to help your candidacy? He doesn't ever answer that second question. He will say, I think it was them and other people, but do you think they were trying to help you? And why reporters don't just drill down on that every time, and this is what drives me crazy about the press, is they're also always measuring their questions and their interactions with the president and the press secretary in order to stay in good favor so they'll get called on in the press conferences. And that is something that is so maddening to watch if you're a news junkie like I am, to watch these people be careful about what they say rather than say the very question that then they will say later in some sort of an article or an interview.
All right, Doug, take it down to fucking summer, will you?
All right. Last one, he's in the pocket with Russia.
We could do a deep dive into the American mythos that smart people, get rich, and that there's something about the rich, other than their possessions that should be emulated.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is,
nice.
and this is, this is a failure of evangelicalism.
Oh boy.
In the sense that that there is only small pockets, of Christians who hold to, a life of being satisfied with whatever means that they have. And like there's a book called, I think it's like why Kansas Turned Red or something like that, that talks about the state that was like very democratic for a long time, but it was believed that there was this notion that if we give, if there's tax relief on the rich, that in return is going to end up benefiting us, because one day I'm going to be rich and I don't want to be taxed like a rich person.
Yeah, we need the rich to be supported in this country. So when I'm one, and that book suggested that it was asking the question: why do, in this case, Kansans, people from Kansas, why do they vote against their self-interest?
Yeah.
Wisconsin's the new question. How did that flip from so blue? All these innovations came out of Wisconsin. The first, health care, minimum wage, Social Security, all this stuff came out of Wisconsin, and then it flipped, and now it even voted for Trump. And what happened in the era of Bill Clinton and Obama, with Bush in the middle, that turned Wisconsin into a Republican supporting state?
I lived in Minnesota for 10 years.
Unbelievable.
And other than the geography, there's never been anything about Wisconsin that's impressed me. And if you live in Wisconsin, that's not a statement against you. I just haven't met you.
It's almost
yet.
by definition.
So hey, I'm going to do a segue here.
Okay.
All right.
Careful, you might drive off a cliff.
Have we?
Do you know that story?
I do know the story. Have we? Just let the people let it hang there. Google that shit.
Yeah.
Have we reached
Google
peak
segue
Musk?
cliff.
I'm a huge fan of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
But
why are you a huge fan?
Because I like smart people.
Oh, okay.
And
he strikes you as a smart guy.
He's doing something that other people have failed at doing.
Well, he's a superhero.
Okay. So listen,
It's easy for
we
him.
talked about, maybe you keep interrupting me, bro. It's not going to come out. Now you're giving me that look. So we were talking about how maybe, Trump may have some intelligence that is beneficial to, what's ever in his wheelhouse, but not be transferable to other areas like running a country.
Yeah.
Okay. Did I summarize that correctly?
Yeah.
You're welcome. So maybe Musk, with all the demands upon his, superior intellect, now we're seeing the weaknesses in his game after calling the cave rescuer a pedophile because he basically told Musk to go blank his rocket.
Yeah, I heard. I've only seen the headlines about this.
Yeah.
Tell me the story. What happened? Musk tried to send some equipment over to help.
So
they said we don't need it. We can swim it out. And then he said technology is better than people.
They said so. He had this idea. He's got like these little rocket boosters that like a cylinder that a kid can fit in. Okay, he's like, hey, we can make these things. We can make them airtight, or the kid can wear an oxygen mask in there. And so all they got to do is put these kids in these Pringles cans, and then they can just kind of carry them under the water so they won't have to be swimming around and they can get through tight spaces, right? So he built this unimpressive looking device, and I think he might even shipped it down there. So one of the guys who was responsible for, the cave rescue said, no, thank you. We don't need it. And I think he went as, far as to say, this is useless. And so then he said, Elon Musk said, like, what do you know? You're a diver. I'm a rocket scientist. You don't know anything about this. Plus, someone else on your team said it was a good idea. And so then the cave rescuer says, well, the best thing for Elon Musk and that rocket is for him to go fuck it. And so, Elon Musk is like, well, that guy's a pedophile. That's how it's escalating
Really?
so quickly.
It just devolves into two grown men making
You put
sexual
down
insults.
my rocket. You're a pedophile.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and this comes after a string of kind of outbursts. There was like he was on a something call, where they,
asking about the Tesla and all that.
And someone asked him, some questions, and, apparently he's like, rolling his eyes and, doing that sort of thing.
They said basically, how much longer do I have to put up with these stupid questions or something like this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, so obviously people who are higher up and connected into Tesla and that whole thing are like, dude, like, because I think they even said, 6 months ago, we said you need to take a sabbatical,
Oh, really?
Yeah. So anyway, so maybe that was my segue out of politics into
popular culture stuff. Hey, the World Cup. Did you follow it?
You just couldn't go anywhere without.
Way to go. Did you have a favorite? Were you pulling for someone?
No, I cannot hold my attention that long. Yeah.
Croatia didn't win, and I was really sad for my friend Samir. Somebody I'm doing a lot of work with, a compatriot, a coworker, colleague, a friend.
Really,
he's Croatian, and he really. I mean, they got into the World Cup finals again, which is a big deal. I mean, they're world class.
I don't. Please, Samir and the Croatians of our listening audience, don't. My lack of interest is not, in the support of the French or anything. It's just like,
it's like Wisconsin to you.
No, I've met some good, cool Croatians. No, but here's the thing. It's the flopping thing. Every time I see one of those grown men athlete do that, it makes me want to punch somebody. Mm-hmm. And it is ludicrous that is allowed to happen. Yeah. Put some more damn referees out there, okay? If they think they can get away with, is childish.
It's part of they've baked it into the game in the way that in professional hockey they bake in that you can have a fist fight. Everybody stands back until they're ready, and then they just put you in a penalty box and let you come back in later. They've built it in, and this flopping, they've built it into the game.
That's absurd, but I'm down with it. The flopping,
like it?
Well, really, like if you're just like a serious athlete, like it seems pretty harsh when another player's coming at you trying to punch you for something that you did. Like that seems like that should not happen.
Every other sport other than like kickboxing and boxing and whatever that fighting game is, if you punch someone else, you're
UFC is
ejected.
Right. Yeah, right. It is kind of like a boys will be boys kind of thing, but
it's built in, and the flopping is built into soccer for some reason. There's something about it that they tolerate it to a level because, like you say, they could throw another ref out there, or if they catch someone doing it, they could just like.
Yeah, they could preview that.
Kick you out and
after
not
the
let
game,
you play for.
Look
ever.
at all the flopping and go. You're getting penalized. You're getting penalized.
Yeah.
That was your.
Yeah, they could put an end to it. Hey, this Maria Butina. You following that story at all? The Russian spy, the young Russian spy, the redhead, the like 1980s flashback.
Love it.
I mean, she's just noodling around with all the religious cats, all the gun lovers. And she's using sexual favors to get into on the inside of these organizations. She's doing all
a Russian spy willing to do sexual favors. That's a titillating story.
Yeah. The number of like Russian prostitutes and porn stars and Playboy people that are around our politics right now is shocking. That Trump's accused of being with prostitutes. That there is a porn star, adult film actress here. There's a Playboy playmate that he's paid off. There's now this. Like all of a sudden, our whole country is just.
Hey, look! If you're a millionaire, savage, out there just slinging. That's cool, but you can't then become president after you know what I mean?
See, that's the whole thing. Is I don't know whatever it is you're doing that this country decides to cheer you on for and reward you mightily for being someone. You just don't get to be.
Back to the Russian sex spy. The thing that does maybe it's intriguing because this is not obviously the first time this has happened. I mean, this kind of sort of insertion. Has happened before. Mm-hmm. In and out, over and over again. Where sleeper spies get in and they just blend into the American fabric and do their spy stuff. So two things on that. One, I do, there is a little bit of sadness in that this woman who is doing this could be under some sort of duress. Like,
of course she is.
Like, there's, something, like you've got to do this,
Right.
your family back home, that, that sort of, that
Have you
sort
seen
of
the
thing.
movie Sparrow?
No, I haven't.
This
Oh,
movie
yeah.
that's out now that's about a Russian spy.
Yeah,
who's
Red Sparrow.
Red Sparrow.
Yeah.
It's that story. That's what I've been thinking about. She looks a lot like that person too. I mean, not a Hollywood actress sort of profile, but she's.
Well, I think you're giving the
very
spy a
similar.
little bit more credit, but
just tall redhead.
the other thing too is that, and this kind of goes back to a story that we missed about FBI agent Strzok.
Oh yeah,
And
we never
that
talked about
whole Senate examination,
Yeah.
which really was horrible. And the thing about that is that, like, this Strzok guy, he was responsible for a lot of cool anti-Russian spy stuff.
Yeah.
And his team was responsible for following that one couple who had been in, like, the United States for 12 years, and they were able to infiltrate them. I mean, they didn't know they were being watched, but to watch how the Russians handle their spies. He kept that investigation going, for like over 10 years. They eventually, pulled the trap and arrested them, but then we ended up giving them back in that whole Anna Chapman Obama-based debacle. We got like a couple of bit players, but they get their sleeper cell back.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he was so this guy got a medal for that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And has been nothing, I mean, regardless of what his politics are,
Yeah.
and trying to, because they want to infuse some sort of doubt regarding the validity of the Mueller investigation, they're willing to throw this,
This guy under,
this hero, under the bus. Now, if 10 years from now, if he turns out to be a spy, because he looked kind of Russian to me, I will totally take all this back.
Yeah, you've been duped.
Yeah, I mean, right. I just
Well, it's that whole shooting match there. That and when I heard his comments before the Senate, he basically said, "Look, you have to know when I was writing to my girlfriend, which I don't know if you heard the senator turn on him and say, when I see you sitting here lying to us, I think you use that same mouth to lie to your wife about, you're like, what just happened?" But he said, when I was messaging her, what the intelligence I was looking at was that Michael Flynn is working with the Russians, that this Carter Page is tied in with these people, that Donald Trump has people in his inner circle that are tied into that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So if you think I'm just a Democrat, my issue about Donald Trump wasn't that I'm a Democrat and he's a Republican. It's that he's compromised. That my fear is that we have a presidential candidate who's about to win who is compromised. That's what was freaking me out. And all of that, and they're just having to burn through these guys. But Mueller, as I like to say it, he's got to, because it just sounds too German.
Yeah.
Mueller.
Yeah.
The Hein Mueller. I can't do it. I still hold a grudge. I can't get over the grudge. That Mueller has. I think I gave you my theory before, right? I'm petrified because if Mueller had enough to impeach Trump, he would have done it,
right?
Because he wouldn't let him keep going on and having private meetings with his handler and naming Supreme Court justices and all this. But
that's the way Strzok likes to run things. Let them just give them all the rope they need.
Yeah. Okay. You think that's the way Mueller likes to do it? You mean?
Well, Strzok is the spy master, and now he's out of the game because he's
text messaging.
I think the affair was,
I mean, I'm
just texting with his wife.
Yeah, I'm just going to sound judgy for a minute. The number of things that people give up and cost them for having affairs and having sexual liaisons with people is utterly befuddling to me.
Yeah,
it just is so incredible that the level from personal pain, professional pain, financial pain, national, it's so incredible to me. And I know people are like, oh, that's the kind of guy that's having an affair that says stuff like that. I'm not. I just don't get it. You got anything else? I got some tips for you. I got some personal growth tips from the good people over at Ladders.
Well, before we get into that, Doug, let me
you got something?
let me drop this on you here. Let me turn you on to this.
It's tantalizing podcast. What's going on with that screen too, by the way?
What?
Did you drop it?
I've dropped it several times, Doug. I'm no longer married to technology. I don't care.
Fix it. Just fix it. I'm such a judger. I saw somebody somebody was doing some a service person for me, and they had to pull out their phone to just use a swipe card thing.
And
I saw a crack on the screen, and I was just like, I was like a senator talking to Strzok. I was like, and with that phone, you're going like you don't even have enough care and consideration to go have your screen fixed. Such a judger.
Doug, do you know why cannabis gives you the munchies?
I don't even know if it does, but I don't know why it would.
Science does.
It does?
Yes.
It's true then? It actually does give you the munchies?
Science knows. Researchers in Washington say the study, further study is urgently needed so we can better prescribe marijuana from a medical standpoint. I know you've got some biases against, marijuana because of your child-rearing choices, but some state allows it for cancer and HIV patients to treat appetite loss, but we do not know how it interacts with their bodies or their disease. And the study shows that the drug actually switches off the hunger regulator in the brain, the hypothalamus, for a moment before triggering a rush of hunger hormones. And once those hunger hormones are released, that hypothalamus switches on again. So it's not all in your head, and it's not just based upon the kind of weed you're getting. It just happens.
It is technically all in your head. Isn't that where that stuff is? Is all inside your brain?
The hypothalamus is located in your head.
In your head. So it's all in your head, but it's just not all made up in your head.
Correct. You are hungry.
And it sounds like it says that after it releases the rush of eat now hormones, those subside and they go away. So if you can hold out, then the cessation goes away?
Well, I think that is the golden question there. Like, is there this window of hunger, or do you need to eat in order to cause the switch to happen?
That's a good question. Like temptation. Is giving into temptation the only way to relieve yourself of the temptation? This has been
That's the best way.
This has been a long time. All right, I'm gonna give you a choice. Would you like grammar rules that you were taught in school that are wrong? Do you want that for your self-help? Would you like 6 tips for learning how to trust yourself, or 4 tips if you're going through adversity? What do you want? You want a little language help in light of the big news this week? Do you want how to trust yourself, or do you want a way to get through adversity?
Well, I think I know what I need, but I'm going to hold off on that.
Oh.
And I'm going to defer to what I think maybe most people would like to hear, the grammar rules that are no longer in play.
So now I wonder if you're saying that it was trusting yourself or getting through adversity.
Can you just send me both the links, please?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. So grammar rules from the good people over at Ladders that you were taught in school that are wrong. Do you remember being taught that you should never start a sentence with and or but? Do you remember being taught that?
Yeah, I do.
I start sentences all the time with and or but.
I do, and I feel like I'm doing something wrong, like I didn't think it through enough.
Well, what if I told you that your teachers were wrong and there's lots of other so-called grammar rules that we've probably been getting wrong in our English classes for years? You know what I love about the notion of this? Grammar rules are just made-up rules. They're not reflecting some reality of nature. It's our own language. We've decided what the rules are, and then someone's like, "Those rules are wrong. Here are the right rules." Well, that's just what we do. That's just the development of language. So they're not wrong. It might just another way to say it, I think, is you can do that now.
Let's hear it.
Let's hear them. Number 1.
My daughter's an English major.
The rule is, it's English major. This is going to drive them crazy because they're purists. They're traditionalists.
Well, she's a creative writing major, so she might appreciate these new allowances.
Oh,
might free up some
Here they are. You can't start a sentence with a conjunction. There's a broken rule. Let's start with the grammatical sin that I've already committed in this article. You can't start a sentence with a conjunction. Obviously you can, because I just did. And I expect I'll do it again before the end of the article.
Bitches!
That's a pen drop.
That's right.
Stop
me now. You just read that and understood it.
Those who say that you can't start a sentence with a conjunction like and or but sit in the prescriptivist camp. All right, number 2. You can't end a sentence with a preposition.
Oh, totally. I would love to be able to do that.
Well, technically in Latin you can't, but in English, we do it all the time. Admittedly, a lot of younger generation don't even know what a preposition is. They don't know what the preposition is. They don't know what the Constitution is.
Well, I got a cartoon to show you.
So this rule is already obsolete, but let's have a look at it anyway.
What's your function?
I did a little bit at the I did a little thing at this spoken word event on Thursday night called Talking to Myself. A bunch of people I know are there. It was meant to be sort of dark comedy. It really flopped. It really flopped. Nobody laughed. Nobody thought it was funny. They just thought I was. They just thought I was being
feeling
depressive.
that cement in my diaphragm right now.
But it was all about how the dreams of the 1970s.
I said cement, by the way.
How the dreams of the 1970s that I were given for a kind of world that we could have, from the EPA to the ERA to Women's Lib, Bionic Woman, Wonder Woman, Leonard Skinner singing Mr. Saturday Night Special ain't good for nothing but putting a man 6 feet in a hole. How all this sort of conjunction or the preamble of the Constitution being sung by and for children was something that we all cared about, that the President of the United States had the common goodness to resign and rather than to defeat the presidency, cared more about the presidency than himself. All that good dreams that were built into us.
Doug, you're absolutely right. That shit ain't funny at all.
That's not funny at all.
No.
All of that, and I did a whole thing about the low five. All that was lost, and now I find myself, just thinking that a political movement is something like asking for a $15 minimum wage. I think that's what turned the people on me, as I made a Bernie. But anyway, it went over. But I was raising up the.
Did you open with that?
I finished it.
Okay.
I raised up. It was right at the end. I raised up the idea of the preamble of the Constitution from Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
People looked at me like I was out of my mind. I played it for them on the iPad. One person there said, "I have no idea what that is. Never heard it."
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
Russian agent. Totally. Jeez, keep your eye on that guy.
So you can't end a sentence with a preposition. What you're not supposed to do is end a sentence with a proposition. But you can. Number 3.
Going back to the damage that affairs cause.
Put a comma when you need to take a breath. That rule.
That's a good rule or bad rule?
It's a no longer an operative rule.
Oh, okay.
Or is it no longer is not an operative rule? I don't know. It's a double negative problem. Sorry.
Right.
It's a novel idea that you should put a comma where you take a breath, synchronizing your writing with your breathing, but the two have nothing to do with one another. And if this is the instruction you were given as a child, it's little wonder your commas are so poorly used.
You have looked ridiculous for a long time in your correspondence.
I know this. I feel it very deeply. I don't use commas well. I don't know when they go. I don't know where they go. I don't get them.
I used to think that I was really great at the semicolon. I just had a supernatural sense of when to play that.
Yeah.
And so I was at your office one time and I was bragging about that to Carla Ewert.
Yeah.
And I'm like, here, look. And she's like, oh, that's not where it goes.
Do you know this guy, Malcolm Gladwell?
Yeah.
You know that guy? I haven't met him, but I know his writing. He has a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an episode in the 3rd season of the podcast all about the semicolon. And the power of the semicolon, because it's in the Constitution that has to do with the division of states or something.
So that you need to know what that means.
Yeah, and they go on this whole thing about how there's just no reason for the semicolon, which Carly Ewert would not appreciate because she's a big fan of it.
Yeah.
All right, 2 more. Of myths that you've heard, and you can set aside what you were taught wrong about grammar in grammar school.
Carly Ewert's a professional editor, by the way.
Did you call it grammar school ever?
No.
No, I didn't either. But
you're like a chalkboard, sir. No.
We did have chalkboards. I had to clean them. You know how I know we had chalkboards? Not because I read things on them. I had to stay in from recess and clean them.
No, I meant like individual chalkboards, like Little House on the Prairie. Yeah, we had those big things. Yeah.
To make your writing more descriptive, use more adjectives. Do you ever hear that? That
Boy,
teaching?
let me tell you, a resume is not anything but a bunch of adjectives stitched together.
Mark Twain had it right when he said, "When you catch an adjective, kill it." No, I don't
Mark
mean
Twain-
utterly, but kill most of them. Then the rest will be valuable. If you want your writing to be more descriptive, play with your sentence structure. Consider this sentence from Liz Lofthouse, a beautiful children's book author. It comes in a key
I don't
turning
know what her
point in her
attractiveness
book.
has to do with it, but go ahead.
The book's beautiful.
Oh, okay.
The story of refugees' escape. Clutching her mother's hand, Zybra ran on and on through the night, far away from the madness, until
Like
there
a
was
gazelle.
only darkness and quiet.
Pitch black darkness.
A beautifully descriptive sentence, and
Silence like the grave.
not an adjective in sight.
Well,
Drop
I guess
the
an
adjec-
adjective would be like grim silence.
Drop the adjectives and rewrite your sentence. Don't use lazy adjectives to make yourself sound interesting.
Well, that is a practice in restraint. I mean, that was a sentence that was labored over.
Yeah, they worked hard on that sentence.
Yeah.
They wrote it with a bunch of adjectives and then took them out and started reworking
It's like
it.
a stand-up's punchline. They just
I
had to
do-
whittle that down to
Man,
just razor
I feel
sharp.
that way when I'm writing a tweet because you got a limited number of letters
Yeah.
or of spaces or what do they call it? Limited number of
Characters.
And I do it when I'm I have to write these like emails that go out to my big email list. Like 10,000 people on it, even though like only 3,000 people ever open it. But still, I really want those things to be right. You get something from MailChimp or whatever, one of
Yeah.
those. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I labor over those sentences more than I do the books I've written.
Yeah, just thinking about those 8,000
Makes me
emails lingering
sick.
in someone's inbox, all incorrect, waiting to
just-
be a grammar time bomb to be opened.
I just think if someone's going to be on their toilet and they take time to read my email, I want to run it through Grammarly.
When I was a pastor, and you're like, you're the chef, the cook, and the bottle washer, sending out newsletters and whatever, and inevitably, every time I would miss the most crucial date and time of some event, and then I would just get like an ocean of people.
The shame that rolls over you when you miss that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, it's like you had one job to give us correct information about this, and
And you missed it.
yeah.
Yeah, there's just something in there that just makes you feel like if I do that kind of thing, I shouldn't be the president. Adverbs are words that end in ly. Lots of adverbs end in ly, but many of them don't.
Boy. Now that sounds like, who's been hiding this secret knowledge?
Yeah. And who freaking cares about any of these grammar? See, this is the thing as a non-grammar rule follower.
Yeah.
I don't care. Adverbs give more information
Well, I've
about
read your
verbs.
writing.
Yeah, you know that.
Yeah.
You've read my MailChimp emails.
I couldn't understand
Adverbs galore. They don't start with and.
Just red lines.
They
underneath
tell
everything.
us, adverbs do, they tell us when, where, how, and why the verb happens. So that means that words like tomorrow, there, and deep can be adverbs.
What is it? Dun, 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 dun. Get
So-
your adverbs here. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time in English worrying about the English language itself.
Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the Brits really care about that stuff.
Boy, they do.
Yeah.
They do. Because we're a written language culture. We're not an oral culture.
Yeah.
We're not an oral B culture. We are a written and grammar culture.
Yep. Got that right. I was trying to fit in ain't in there, but I don't.
That ain't no lie.
I bet this writer would be like, hey, you could use it.
Sure,
It's good.
Sure, use
it's
ain't no
cool.
lie. You can use ain't no lie. Lots of people don't, but lots of people do. I mean, some people don't.
Any words,
I
any
wouldn't.
knowledge on contractions? Your dreaded contractions? Isn't that what you hate?
No,
Yeah.
no, abbreviations.
Oh, abbreviations.
I don't mind a contraction.
Okay.
For some reason, and people have called me on this.
Yeah.
Like, how come you don't say cannot then if you don't like an abbreviation? Like, I just think abbreviations are just a give in to verbal laziness. You don't have time to say guacamole. You can't call it a cucumber. You're in such a hurry. You got to say ASAP. You can't tell somebody as soon as possible. Yeah, you're just really in such a rush for your ASAP and your guac and your cukes and your cutie little abbreviations.
Yeah, to hell with those people.
God,
I mean,
can't stand them.
come on.
I should write up my own list of like thing for ladders on self.
There you go.
Hey, I might have a win. Hey, good morning, John.
Good morning, Doug.
Morning's a state of mind, my friend.
So we'll be back when we don't know because
John might be busy.
Or, Doug might be. Hey, Doug, you've been doing some traveling here lately regarding that
Vote Common Good
kind of thing.
Yeah, it's right on the verge of being great.
And so if anybody wants
really
to
come
learn
Did I tell
more
you that
about...
they can go to votecommongood.com, and I wish they would. Did I tell you about my conversation with James Carville?
Give it to me. No.
Yeah.
I know you arranged that you have a friend who knew him and that they were talking and your friend said, like, hey, I know that guy. And he's like, hey, yeah, give him my number.
Yeah. So in the morning, I was texting James Carville, and by 10 o'clock, I was on the phone with him. So fun for me. So fun.
Listen here.
Hey, Doug. I mean, he's just great. The Raging Cajun. And he said, talked about a lot of things. And he said, he was giving advice on Vote Common Good. Mm-hmm. We're trying to help people of good conscience and religious motivations to vote common good rather than the reflexive Republican impulses. Because in this state, at this day and age, at this time, the two don't go together.
Are you touching my foot or is there an animal underneath me?
I don't know. I'm touching your foot.
Okay.
Your faith as a Christian is colliding with your reflexive impulse to vote for Republican. Might not always be true. Hasn't always been true, but it's true now. My view. So a lot of these people feel really conflicted and they want to do something about it.
And what did Carville say, or was that just it?
No, he said, Doug, I love it. It's a great idea. There's only 2 rules to James Carville. and then he does a caveat. Now, I'm just a college teacher down here in Louisiana. I've been involved since the late 1990s. With 2 rules to James Carville. 1, love your neighbor as you love yourself. There's nothing more simple than that, and that's what people need to hear from a politician, that you're going to be a politician that takes care of your neighbor the same way you take care of yourself. Rule 2, be fucking nice. Be nice. The 2 ruls. I mean, to hear James Carville say, first of all, love your neighbor as yourself is the operative Democratic argument, which is great. I hope it's true. And number 2 is be nice. Incredible.
The possibilities of what the 2 things that make James Carville happy is really large. And I got to tell you, I'm being very good right now because I got a host of them boiling in my mind.
Well, it was super fun. But anyway, so Vote Common Good is right on the verge of being really, really great. We're going to launch this bus tour. We're just we're a couple of big fundraising yeses away from being funded. And we're just right on the brink.
Excellent, man. Keep up the good work, I guess.
Keep up the Vote Common Good work.
Yeah.
I use that stuff all the time. Yeah. We go around saying, help us spread the Vote Common Good news. That's clever, huh? See what I did there?
Not really, but...
Yeah. Oh. Hey, I'm glad you had time for this today, John.
Oh, me too. Thanks for squeezing me in between your
I'm glad.
world travels
glad
and
you had a minute.
Detailing car appointment that you had to go to on Thursday.
God, that would have been great if I was detailing my car. I'd love a good car detailer. Do you have one? Do you keep one?
A detailer?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's a great place in Eden Prairie.
Yeah, you have to drop it off all day?
Well, I mean, if you want to spend $100 on it, you're going to spend it. Leave it for a couple. You can make an appointment and drop it off, and it's going to take some time.
Yeah, like they shampoo and everything.
Yeah. I mean, they got different levels,
different packages. Which place is it?
Oh, what's it? Okay, it's off of Flying Cloud Road. Okay,
right over by the radio station. I'm going to hit them up as an advertiser.
Oh, well, you need to go way down to where it looks like.
By the airport there.
Well, not quite to the airport, but it'll be on the right past the BP. Maybe a half mile down from the mall, Doug.
Past the mall, by the Wendy's. Past the Wendy's?
A little past the Wendy's. Yeah, keep on going. But you might want to make a left at the BP, and then make a right because that'll be how you could get to the place.
Gotcha.
It's,
Yeah, it's that frontage road along the road. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's insider tip. That's local. That's local news.
It's local news.
All right. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Doug.